Good morning. Welcome to Monday Morning Music with Matt. That's Truffle, the kitten. I'm Matt Greer. I'm the music director at St. John's United Methodist Church in Albuquerque, as I'm sure most of you know that are watching. So we're at home this morning, and I have a very special guest that I'm looking forward to chatting with. I want to mention just one thing that is coming up in the music ministry this week. There is no live stream concert this week. As many of you may be aware, the church is closed this week out of an abundance of caution. We have had a couple of positive COVID cases in the staff, and everybody is fine. But everybody is working from home at least for this week, and we expect that we'll be back doing worship live from the sanctuary on Sunday. So all that is to say, no live stream concert this Wednesday. There is a special session that is happening this Wednesday night, and this is not exclusive to Chancel Choir. Therese McCauley, our assistant music director, is doing a session called The Liturgical Year and Its Music, and she is going to talk about all kinds of things related to church music, particularly as it relates to the liturgical year, and you are encouraged to bring your hymnals. And Chancel Choir members, there'll be a link to that in your Wednesday morning email. If others are interested, let me know, and I'll make sure that you are included in that. So we are, excuse me, of course, observed Ash Wednesday just a week ago. Yesterday was the first Sunday of Lent, and so we are looking forward to what is going to be coming up during this season, and also what is possible for Holy Week and Easter. And of course, it was just a year ago in the midst of Lent that all this happened. And so we know that we will be doing some fantastic stuff musically. How and in what setting, we're still working on. I wanted to open this morning by sharing a couple of things from last weekend's fantastic Quintessence Virtual Festival, Love Virtually, that we did over Valentine's weekend. And I know a lot of you were probably there for that. But there are a couple of wonderful video performances, more than a couple actually, that came out of that weekend. For our two cabaret concerts, we invited some favorite singers who had some connection with Quintessence to submit videos of themselves singing love songs. And some of those were local and some of them came from far, far away. I want to share a particularly beautiful one this morning that came to us from our friends Andrea Haynes and Blake Morgan, who are both members of Voces 8 and who are, in lockdown across the pond in London. Voces 8, of course, has been doing some great concerts live from their space. But I was so pleased that Andrea and Blake agreed to do a love song video for us. And this is a special arrangement that they did of an English folk song called The Water of Tyne. This is Andrea Haynes and Blake Morgan. I hope you enjoy it.
I cannot get to my both sighing and dying, my sweetheart to see.
Isn't that lovely? Was so grateful to have Andrea and Blake submit something. And for those of you that are fans of Voce 8, we also had a submission from two former members, Emily Dickens and Dingle Yendel. And if you go to the Quintessence YouTube channel and search for the Cabaret Fundraiser concert, you can see all of the videos, including one from Ken Miedema, one from Adrian Danrich, that one from Andrea and Blake, and then the other one from Emily and Dingle. And then as part of the weekend, we also commissioned two virtual choir projects. Virtual choirs, you all are aware, are a thing. And they were a thing before lockdown, and they've especially become a thing since lockdown because, of course, one of the very strange things about this situation is that singers cannot gather together, generally speaking, in closed spaces and make music as we are usually doing. And St. John's folks know that you're aware that we have done, I think, 5 virtual choir projects, thanks to Jim Arend and Shay Perry, and thanks to all of you who submitted. It is not a tremendously satisfying process for the individual singer, I don't think. I participated in one as a singer. And it's challenging because many people, most of us, in fact, I think, who signed up to be choir members didn't necessarily ever do so because we wanted to sing solos. And virtual choirs ask you to sing a solo and to videotape yourself singing a solo and then to submit it and trust that it won't be used for any nefarious purpose. And so I'm tremendously grateful to those people who have submitted. Well, last weekend, we commissioned 2 virtual choir projects, again, that Jim Arend and Shay Perry did for Quintessence. And the first was done by our scholars, our high school and college kids who participated in our choral festivals the last few years. The one I'm going to show you this morning is the one that was done by singers who are currently on the Quintessence roster and who are alums. And 36 people from all over, certainly from Albuquerque, but also people who have moved away, did submissions for this piece, a piece that Quintessence has sung a lot in recent years and was perfect for the weekend, which was, of course, about love and Valentine's Day and all of that stuff. So this is a virtual choir video of David Dickhow's If Music Be the Food of Love. Enjoy.
Music be the food of love, sing
St. John's people, you saw a lot of familiar faces in that lineup, of course. And I will also mention that the quartet that was in the middle of the video were all current or former music ministry interns at St. John's: Ashley Daigle, Shay Perry, Curtis Storm, and Alfredo Beltran. And so that was the capper for our weekend. And again, the fact that that comes together and sounds like a choir and is beautiful to look at and see is all down to the work of Jim Arend and Shay Perry. So hope you enjoyed seeing that this morning. Speaking of music ministry interns, our special guest is joining us from New York City and St. John's people. I hope you will pop up in the chat and say hello if you remember Ivan, especially from his time at St. John's. In the chat, there's also a link to his bio so that you can see what he has been up to, particularly in recent years as a professional singer. And I actually want to introduce you to him this morning by playing another short video. And this is because almost a year ago in mid-March, when the church shut down, one thing that was to happen on the Sunday, the first Sunday that we were closed down, was that Ivan was booked to sing for us in church because he was in town singing La Traviata with Opera Southwest. And we were so pleased, so looking forward to having him in worship. It had been a while. And of course, that didn't happen. But when we realized it didn't happen, we thought, what about bringing Ivan into church and we could make a video that we could put out? And actually that led to a whole series of videos that we spent the better part of a month doing, inviting musicians into St. John's in a safe space and making videos and providing them with a little bit of work. And the very first of those were a couple of videos that you can see on our YouTube channel that were Ivan singing what he was going to sing in church on that Sunday morning with Jim Arend. So I'm going to play one of those so you can hear him. And I should say, just in case Shay Perry, who took on this project, is watching or sees this later, she would want me to say this was very early work and she was still figuring out the whole video and audio thing. I think it's beautiful, but I think she would want me to say that. This is Ivan Conrad and Jim Arend performing Deep River. Beautiful. And I'm going to welcome him in. Welcome, Ivan Conrad, joining us from New York City. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing? How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, doing great. It's really, really nice to see you and to get to hear you again.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here again. Thank you so much for asking me back.
It's amazing that was almost a year ago. I just never imagined that we would still be kind of in the same place, although, of course, there's light at the end of the tunnel now. But remind me, you were here, you were about to sing in church for us because you were here about to go into performances of Traviata with Opera Southwest. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, we had done 2 weeks of rehearsals. We even had our final room run where we had staged the entire piece, or I guess our first room run, where we had staged the entire opera and then got the call that next day saying no mas. So they had rescheduled it originally for April. That's obviously not happening. And so it's going to be here in October. So fingers crossed, as the season next year in Opera Southwest.
And I mean, I'm sure, were happy to be doing something with Opera Southwest because you're from Albuquerque and grew up here. But singers, I would imagine, for those productions come in from all over and block out time. And it must have been a big disappointment to get so close to actually getting to perform it and then having the whole thing scrapped.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think a lot of the cast was from New York or kind of this area. And literally that same day just to kind of get out because we were all so uncertain. And obviously it's been a pretty tricky year for performers. I had other gigs canceled and postponed and, a bleak future ahead just because we're still certain.
Well, I have hope that it will be staged this October. I think a lot of performing arts organizations are looking towards the fall and what's going to be possible. And I remember, I kind of remember peripherally with friends who were involved with the Opera Southwest organization that they were at least able to, they paid all of the singers and technicians and everybody for their time up to that point, right?
They did, absolutely.
That's just amazing.
Funny, but they just really came through and knew that we'd already put in the work and they really wanted to do right by us. So it was really incredible of them. Yeah.
And you were here, you were not alone. You were here doing a production that also involved your new wife. You just celebrated your first wedding anniversary, right?
It's true. Yeah. It's funny. Even University of New Mexico had called me in to do Don Alfonso and Così fan tutte that I sang with Curtis, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so I got married, and I think 2 days later jumped on a plane and came to Albuquerque and did that quick Così, and then Stephanie came down and joined me. And yeah, we were in rehearsals for La Traviata, and we had a whirlwind of a first year of marriage, and hopefully we get to go on our honeymoon to South Africa, of all places, one of these days. But at least we got married. We were super.
At least you got married. And obviously she's a singer also. She's a soprano, a mezzo?
She is a mezzo, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And did you meet in an opera production or working together?
Yes, we did. We were doing a Carmen and a Showboat in Natchez, Mississippi, of all places. The Miami girl and a New York guy meeting in Mississippi. But yeah, it was cool. Little showmance, as they call it, the Carmen Escamillo, love duet and everything. And then it was a unique contract too, because Showboat is actually set in Natchez, Mississippi. So we got to perform it where it was. But yeah, we did that. We stayed distance for about a year, and then she came on up to New York, and we've been very happy ever since.
Very cool. So St. John's folks will remember, because we were trying to figure out earlier, Ivan was on staff at St. John's as an intern from 2008 to 2010. Does that sound about right?
Yep. In the last 2 years of undergrad, yeah.
Okay. And so remind me, you grew up in Albuquerque. Where did you go to high school?
I did, yeah. I went to Sandia High School. So.
And sang in choir and all of that good stuff?
I started singing halfway through my junior year, actually, of high school. So, yep, I did the choir.
You hadn't sung before that?
Nope. Just kind of fell in love with it later in life. I'd always played piano. I went to my little brother and sister's choir concert, and I said, this is really cool. And then just went hard on it. Joined choruses, barbershop choruses, did Bye Bye Birdie as a non-speaking role, and then got to do Curly in Oklahoma the following year, and just fell in love with singing and performing and ran with it.
Wow. And did you go to UNM intending to major in music?
I went to UNM intending to major in pre-law English, and then I found out that piano major, and everything just got turned topsy-turvy. And then halfway through the year, I found out you could also major in voice, so I added that on, and I did piano voice for quite a while, and ended up dropping piano and picking up music education. So yeah,
okay.
Came up to New York and master's up here in voice at the Manhattan School of Music. So.
Right. That decision to go from pre-law into music, how did your parents feel about that?
Loved it. What is job security? Yeah, exactly. Money and all that great stuff.
Yeah.
What? You're in piano. I'm sure so many jobs in that.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that has been helpful to be a pianist. I mean, it makes you a better musician, and also maybe makes you more marketable as someone who can do both.
Absolutely. No, and I've been thankful to work quite a bit in piano as well, which is cool. So.
And so you did music ed, and that's around the time, I guess, that we met and that you came to St. John's. So did you make a decision? Were you on a road to be a choir director, for instance? Is that what you were thinking, or?
Hard to say. I think because I was dropping piano anyway, I'm like, well, I'm going to be here for another semester or two anyway. I may as well pick something up because I'm a glutton for punishment. So I'm just like, I'm close to music ed, and I always enjoyed it. I always kind of taught piano and then voice. And then, yeah, I did love the choir directing. I actually directed the 505 chorus in Albuquerque for a couple of years too. And yeah, just kind of wanted to sort of be a jack of all trades and see where the world would take me, So my time at St. John's was fabulous. I mean, getting to step in front of the chancel choir a few times, and then the Sunrise Choir helping out with that. So
I remember.
And actually, education has kind of kept me afloat this past year. I teach a lot virtually. I've got a studio of maybe 10 to 15 students that I teach every week, which is fabulous.
Okay. And solo, voice, piano, both?
A little bit of both. Yeah. So,
terrific.
Yeah, definitely. So it's sort of kept me afloat while performance has been, kaput. Yeah.
And so what took you to the Manhattan School? Were you someone who was eager to get to New York, or did you audition a bunch of places for graduate school? How did that happen?
I auditioned a bunch of places. I was actually up here on an Aspen audition for my first ever audition, and then ended up taking some voice lessons at Juilliard in Manhattan School. And they told me at MSM that they were going to have a summer voice institute. So I went that summer and did about a month, kind of like truncated school. It had like a bunch of different classes, and just really fell in love with it. So I auditioned all around, ended up getting in San Francisco and New York, and sort of figured New York was a little bit more connected with the rest of the world. So I decided to come on up here and haven't really looked back. I've been based here a little over 10 years now.
Wow.
Pretty incredible. It's also a great place to leave. So I'm thankful that I get to go on the road a lot, exhausting city, but it's cool. But I will say we're moving on up though, and at least we're comfortable. We have a car and everything. We're out here in Queens, so it's a little bit more suburban, and then city needed. So yeah.
Nice. And so, were there any roles that I know, sorry, before I ask you that, I wanted to ask you about, I think like a lot of singers, because I've heard this from you, I've had the occasional text message on a Sunday morning. You have been involved in church work your whole time in New York City, as a lot of singers do.
The majority of it, when I was gigging a lot, like there were times that I was on the road about 10 months out of the year, and you can only text your boss so often saying I have off? Can I have a month off?" Until they're like,
We love that.
"Isn't a good fit." But no, generally, yeah, I've had several different tenures up here, and then just tons and tons and tons of subbing, from Greek Orthodox to just any different denomination you can think of. But yeah, I had a 2-year tenure during my grad school at the Garden City. I need to get this right. Cathedral. Tevno was Dr. Tevno was an organist there for several years too, and then I kind of followed tracks. And then Fifth Ave Presbyterian. I was at Riverside Church for a while, and then currently for the past couple of years, I have been at Old St. Patrick's Cathedral down in like Soho, Nolita, and it's really beautiful. And we've been very fortunate to still be able to worship during the pandemic, because we're up in the choir loft and it's a professional quartet. So we're able to be about 10 feet away from each other, singing in double masks, living our best lives. But at least we're able to create live music, which not a lot of singers can do during this, and tons of virtual, of course.
Right. Yeah. That is amazing to me. So a paid quartet in the balcony in the back, and you said double mask. Are you amplified, or is the room just...
Yep, we are amplified, and then it's also just a really acoustic cathedral, so we don't really need that much. But it does stream, and the men are there every other week, weirdly enough. So feel free to pull up some of the YouTubes of that, because cool.
There really is a whole economy, isn't there, in cities like New York for singers singing in churches and doing substitute choral gigs that I think people who don't live someplace like New York or Boston don't quite understand. I mean, church work provides bread and butter income for a lot of singers, doesn't it?
So many. Yeah. Church work, Christmas caroling. I've done many, many years too. A lot of those. Other professional choirs I've been part of, even like recording projects or something like that a composer needs to get something laid down. So there's a lot. And there are several Facebook groups that you just kind of pop onto, and NYC Choral Freelancers. If you see it, you send your email right away, and first come, first serve. 50 other singers send it after you, So I just put up my Easter. Actually, I'll be doing a complete virtual Easter with a church in New Jersey that they've just got me recording bass and tenor, actually, to several different parts. So it'll be interesting. I'll do one in the morning and do one in the evening. And kind of it. But there's a lot of work. I guess I've sung with the New York Philharmonic a few times too, kind of in the choruses there, and some of the symphonic choruses. So there's work to be had out here.
Cool.
Usually.
Well, usually. I'm going to play a couple of more recent videos of Ivan. And the first is Se vuol ballare from Marriage of Figaro. What would you tell us about this aria? What would you set this aria up for us, Ivan?
Yeah, totally. I love Figaro so much. I relate with him, He's like the Bugs Bunny character. What do they call it? Like the Harlequino character in the Commedia dell'arte. He finds a way to figure it out, So in this case, there actually used to be something that the Count could sleep with his subjects, on their wedding night. And so I found out about this. Figaro is engaged to be married, Le Nozze di Figaro, the marriage of Figaro, and just found out that the Count is planning to take his wife on his wedding night, and it's not a very good thing. So this is basically kind of like a scheming aria, like, oh, if you want to dance, se vuol ballare, I'll play the guitar for you, and we'll figure out. I will scheme accordingly to get my revenge.
Awesome. This is Ivan Conrad singing an aria from The Marriage of Figaro. And I need a tech person, Ivan. Here we go. Enjoy.
Caro signor padrone, ora incomincio a capire il mistero e a tenere schietto tutto il vostro progetto. Allora, è vero, voi ministro, io correrò e la Susanna secreta ambasciatrice non sarà Figaro il dice se vuol
Ivan Conrad singing Se vuol ballare from Marriage of Figaro. How long ago was that video made?
2 or 3 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And I
And I
swear
have to ask you. Yeah. I was going to ask you, is that your apartment that you're singing in?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's actually our servant's level because he's a servant.
Where was that filmed?
It was a beautiful space on the Upper East Side, which I'd never heard of, and I've never sung there again. It was for a European agent audition, randomly enough. I think it was even a virtual audition at the time 3 years ago, and they just wanted to film it for us, and they were going to send it off there. And we have to pay for auditions, which is, ludicrous for job applications. But at least with this $60, they said we'd give you some videos, and I'm like, well, worse things have happened then.
Gotcha,
So,
right.
Yeah.
And you've sung several roles in Figaro, haven't you?
I have. I've done 3 roles in Figaro. I've done Bartolo, I've done Il Conte, the Count, and then Figaro. So most recently, I sang Figaro in Tuscany 2 or 3 summers ago, which was beautiful. I got to live out there for 5 weeks and just ride my bike all over the Tuscan hills and got to sing the title role. It was really cool.
Gosh, yeah. Tough life.
Tough life indeed. In Chianti.
And Chianti, yeah.
Horrible life.
So, folks, if you click on Ivan's bio, you can see just a tremendous list of roles and singing opportunities he's had since we knew him at St. John's. On balance, over the last few years, have you been traveling singing? How much of the year usually?
It totally depends on the year. I probably had 2 or 3 years there that I was on the road almost 10 months out of the year. And then other times I had a lot more in the tri-state area, which was really handy, But I would generally, when I'm busy, almost average about a role a month, or a whole opera a month, maybe. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. A lot of memorization. And we were joking earlier, as you said, I've done 3 roles in Figaro. I'm like, would you guys just hire me for the role that I already know? Resume. I'd rather not learn another role on the same opera, but at least I'm familiar with the world and the story and the music and all that jazz. So,
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you study actively with a teacher?
I do, actually, 2 teachers, weirdly enough. So one that I've kind of had for about 10 years, and then one who I've worked with for 3 or 4 years, and I've been working with them both virtually a lot this past year, just kind of polishing up new roles and getting ready for the Traviata. I'm singing a smaller role, but then I'm understudying kind of the lead role in that one. So still kind of totally getting that under my belt. So yeah, just getting ready for the world to open back up, you know.
Is that unusual to be singing a role, but also covering another role in the same production, or is that pretty standard?
Pretty standard for, how do I say this? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of young for some of these bigger roles, so it's good for me to be understudying them, to kind of get to know them, to get to watch how the pros do it, you know, but then they can still bring me in the door by having me sing one of the smaller roles. And then if that person happens to go down, which I've understudied almost about 50 times, and no one's ever gone down. So I just have this whole plethora. I've been close. Actually, one time I was in Florida, in Sarasota, understudying the title role again of the Der Fliegende Holländer, the Flying Dutchman. And our Dutchman was very, very, very sick at the time, was also singing the lead role of Nabucco in Miami and just driving back and forth and teaching and like riding himself thin. And so they had me in the orchestra pit. Actually, I was singing in the chorus. So I'd run from the orchestra pit to the chorus, and I was mouthing his entire role. And if the conductor would have pointed at me, I would have started singing.
Holy moly.
It was crazy. And I actually ended up doing it in several of the rehearsals. He kind of pointed to me and I said, oh, and he would wait for the highest, loudest part, you know. I'm like, you could have at least let me warm up to it a little bit. So, yeah, I think that happened on 2 or 3 occasions that I was just standing there in the orchestra pit, just like ready to go. So,
that sounds stressful, Ivan.
It was pretty wild, yeah.
So we were talking also about the fact that you have sung one of my favorite operas is Tosca, and you've sung Scarpia and Tosca a few times now, right?
Yeah. Well, I understudied him twice, and then finally got to sing him last year in Houston. So, yeah.
Great role. A great villainous role, right?
Exactly. A horrible, horrible, horrible dude. Yeah. But
and you get killed very dramatically at the end of the second act.
I do, yeah. There's a really good picture of the soprano, like with her knife on me, and I'm just like lying there bleeding on the floor. So yeah.
I have to tell you, I mean, in high school, it was an ambition of mine to be an opera singer, and I was a bass then, at least in choir, I was a bass. And the Met production, the Zeffirelli Met production, sorry, opera geeks, the Zeffirelli Met production of Tosca with Hildegard Behrens and Placido Domingo, and the Scarpia was Cornell McNeil. And I had that on VHS and just watched it endlessly, and pretended to be Scarpia. So I'm jealous of you having actually been Scarpia.
That have gotten to do it. They put me in a big old leather jacket, like to the floor, and like it was interesting, like a very kind of militant type feel. So it's our opera, yeah. And to walk into church, get to stamp on the floor and say, "You're singing, you're doing this in church. How dare you?" So,
right? Yeah. Great stuff.
Yeah.
So living there, do you have time to go to a lot of performances? Do you get to go to the Met a lot, for instance, and concerts and all of that?
Absolutely. Generally, I'm at the theater, ideally once a week, honestly, or at least every other week, you know. Sometimes people shoot on the Facebook, hey, we have 2 dress rehearsal tickets for the Met at 10 a.m. and you jump on the train and you go, you know. So I go to a ton of theater. I'm always going to Broadway. I'm always going to concerts. Always going to the Met. I sat through the whole Ring cycle last year and it was incredible. And
oh, man.
Just, I love it. It's really special. I've seen, probably 100 shows at the Met at least, you know, just because, and there's a way to do it, you know, there are cheap tickets or I go wait in line early in the morning and then come home and take a nap and then go back to Broadway, you know, you figure it out. But I've seen some really, really, really remarkable stuff here. I was front row actually for one with Robin Williams I was thinking of recently, where he was playing one called A Bengal Tiger in a Baghdad Zoo. And it was back when, like, I want to say a U.S. Army person shot one of the tigers. And so Robin Williams came back as the ghost of the dead tiger and just kind of like had monologue after monologue. And he looked me in the eye on numerous occasions. I think I'm a great audience member, you know, with my expressive face. And I was sitting there just geeking out. And that's one that'll hold with me forever. Not to mention just the countless of incredible people that I've seen at the Met and on Broadway, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Broadway, I noticed on your list of roles that you've done a fair amount of musical theater. You've done Fiddler on the Roof. You've done productions of oh shucks, what else have you done as far as musical? Oh, Showboat you already mentioned, right?
Yeah. So Yeah, it's fun. Hopefully no dancing, but every once in a while they put me there. Or the classical musical theater too, like Joey and the Most Happy Fella, the Joey, Joey, Joey. But it's a good time. It's kind of interesting to speak your lines as opposed to just always singing them, you know?
So I'm going to play one other video, which is of you singing one of the classics, I think, for your voice type in particular, from South Pacific. This is Ivan singing "This Nearly Was Mine." I love hearing you sing that, Ivan.
Thanks. Yeah, I really love singing that piece.
It's fantastic. As I recall, I remember that your voice, your instrument, always had some size to it. Do you feel like what's changed about your voice as you've been studying and singing so actively the last 10 years or so?
I've definitely, yeah, I've always kind of had the size. It used to have a lot of the snarl and brightness, and I used to kind of close a lot. And I think that I finally learned to sort of broaden the spectrum and kind of round it out and everything too. So that way it's not just kind of pingy and just right at you, laser beam, but it's actually kind of got like a lot of the back warmth and everything too, which I've worked tremendously on over the years. And it's gotten easier over the years too, you know, with age kind of, it just settles in a little bit better too, which is kind of nice. It's also got a lot higher. I'm a baritone as of about 3 or 4 years ago, but or maybe, yeah, almost like 5 years. I've actually kind of been officially a baritone, but then I still have a nice low extension for like choir work or the occasional bass baritone role. So yeah.
Right. So, and as far as oratorio stuff, do you get to sing Messiahs, all those great bass arias in Messiah?
Definitely. Always kind of hold on to those. Yeah. So
you reminded me last night that it was like 8 years ago this weekend. Is that right? What it was?
Yeah.
That we did a Beethoven Mass in C together when I think it was the first time that the St. John's Chancel Choir did a concert with the New Mexico Philharmonic, and you came back from New York to sing the bass solos in that with us.
Yep. Super cool. Yeah. I was in rehearsals up here for La Cenerentola, but then I'd already had the gig with you. I'm like, I'm making it happen. So,
yeah, that was great. Perfect. Well, I would love it if more stuff like that would happen. A former member of, I don't know if Sean was in youth choir when you were, but anyway, Sean has he has a question. Are there any roles that you'd really like to perform but haven't had the chance to yet? What are your roles that you still want to be able to do?
Definitely. So much Verdi, Rigoletto, definitely over the years, Macbeth. There's one in Ballo in Maschera. I should know his name. Is it Renato? I think so. He's pretty incredible. I definitely want to do some of the Ring Cycle later in life.
Wow.
Yeah. Both as Wotan and then maybe Alberich. I struggle with Wagner a little bit because I'm Jewish and he was very, very, very anti-Semitic. Yeah. But if anything, it's at least you have a Jew performing your music later in life. So yeah, but definitely a lot of that. Oh, so many roles. I want to do them all. You know, I love studying new roles and I love getting to perform them and returning to them. If I could just keep singing Figaro's forever, I will, because he's so much fun, you know. And the Flying Dutchman too, which I got to perform once and I just want to do it over and over again too. That's just another like big beefy Wagner role that I look forward to doing. And yeah, I'll keep doing Estimios too. He's always a lot of fun. And
the bullfighter from Carmen.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, that one. That's a good tune. That's a good one to get to be able to do. It must be interesting now that you have some of these roles in your repertoire to go to different places and work with different directors and conductors. Is that challenging sometimes to adapt yourself to what they're wanting from you in those roles?
Not usually challenging, but I guess it depends on the conductor or director. So yeah, maybe it could be, especially if you have like a style kind of in mind, and they want something completely different, or if the director is doing something totally wacky or maybe that you don't always agree with. But you know, you roll with it, and they're kind of the people creating, and unfortunately, you're still your own person, but you're always part of the bigger whole. The whole picture. Yeah, you know, the bigger picture. So what was I just about to say? It is fascinating though to get to work with different people and like the other actors, you know, because we know these roles so well, or maybe we don't. And the second time around, you're not stressing about all the Italian. Instead, you kind of get to sit into it, or people that you play against. I mean, that makes such a big difference. And yeah, obviously location makes such a huge difference, and how the orchestra is and how the costumes are and the sets and everything. So I think it's fun. I love revisiting old roles. You pull out your old score like an old friend, and you're like, oh my gosh, I remember struggling over this page forever and stuff like that. So it's cool when it just kind of finally clicks. People talk about roles like getting smaller and smaller and smaller too as you kind of get to know them. Like at first you're highlighting for an entire hour. You're like, how in the world is this going to happen? And then you're like starting to run it smaller and smaller. And how I learn a role is I'll usually make a learning track for myself. So I'll just like sit there and just crunch through it, listening to it. It's usually about 4 hours the first go, and then I'll just like ride my bike and listen to it obsessively. And then about a week later, it'll be 3 hours. Then about a week later, it'll be 2 hours, and then 1 hour. Until I'm just kind of like listening to the tricky spots, and then eventually, like I said, it all sort of clicks. So,
Yeah,
kind of cool.
Well, we're very proud of you at St. John's, Ivan Conrad.
Yeah.
And we know that when you are back in Albuquerque in October and ready to finally do that Traviata, come and sing for us on Sunday morning, will you?
I will be there. Absolutely. So, and you guys were amazing to me over the years too. I had such a beautiful time with that music ministry, and you were just always incredible. And I looked up to you as an East Coaster, kind of getting ready for what my life might bring, So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
Speaking of,
yeah, go ahead.
Take you on a field trip real fast just because it's snowing and it's kind of pretty. And
all right. Now I can see your hand.
Oh, I know. I'm purposely covering it.
Okay, all right. Oh my gosh.
From my balcony, my fire escape. So, why not?
That's very romantic. You and Stephanie go out there and sing to each other. Is that what you do?
Definitely don't piss off the neighbors.
All right. Well, Ivan, thanks for doing this morning. I really appreciate it. It was great to see you.
Absolutely. Likewise, Matt. Was happy to be here and good to hear from all my former friends out there, and look forward to seeing you guys in October.
Okay. Thanks, St. John's folks, for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.